Hello, this is Domino once again, and today we will discuss Unit 2 Computers in Nursing Documentations and Healthcare. In this chapter, we will turn our focus to computer science. Remember, it is one of the building blocks of nursing informatics. We will take a look at computers, the hardware and the software that is used in nursing, and how computers change the way nurses document. In this unit, we will also look at operating, productivity, creativity, and communication software. At the end of this unit, we will look at how computer systems change the landscape of human technology interface dynamics. This course assumes that you already have basic computer knowledge and competency in computer derived from your senior high or other supplemental courses. Please review the basics on the computer by watching a playlist on YouTube shown in the next slide. I recommend that all of you watch and review this playlist from YouTube courtesy of gcflearnfree.org. Suppose there is anything that you don't understand regarding computer technology concepts. In that case, I recommend that you communicate with me to give you more resources on the basics of computers and will have the competency in basics in computers. The link is found below, and pause this video now and come back later when you are done reviewing the recommended videos. Enjoy! After reviewing all about computers, I would like you to review a brief video on their history and appreciate how computing has evolved. This crash course is brought to you by Crash Course, and the link is provided below the stream. The video's title is Early Computing, Crash Course Computer Science Number 1. After reviewing, come back and let's continue our discussion. I know that you have reviewed the history of computers. Let's just run down milestones in the history of computer systems. So the first one we have is Blaise Pascal and Gottfried Leibniz. They were the first developed the machines that performs arithmetic calculations in the early 1600s. I think you know Charles Babbage, very common name in the computer industry. He developed the analytical engine in 1883. It is known as the earliest computer. Hermann Hollerith, the first one to implement the electromechanical calculating machine during the 1890s election in the United States. Mark I is the first automatic calculator in the 1930s. It used electromagnetic relays and counters for performing calculations. It is an electromechanical computer rather than the electronic one that we have today. Next is ENIAC. It is a contracture of electronic numerical integrator and calculator, developed in the mid-1940s, the first electronic digital computer. It uses vacuum tubes. Remember those vacuum tubes? I don't know if you remember it, but way back when I was studying computer before I think in 2001, the computer monitors were vacuum tubes. And this one is made from vacuum tubes, not only the monitor but the computer itself. You can search it online and take a look at what it is. Next is EDSAC, Electronic Delay Storage Automatic Computer, the first stored program computer in 1949. I just wonder the storage capacity of this computer. The next one is UNIVAC, is the Universal Automatic Computer, the first generation computer in 1951 to 1958. It uses vacuum tubes to control internal operations faster than earlier machines. The second generation computers, 1959 to 1964, relied on transistors for controlling internal operations. Aside from transistors, these computers has high-level programming languages, modular hardware design, and the improved input-output systems. The third generation's computer, from 1965 to 1980, used solid-state integrated circuits rather than transistor to obtain reductions in size and cost, together with increased reliability and speed. Have larger storage capacity too. Supported by a more sophisticated software, tasks handled by humans are automated. At present, our computer uses semiconductors and large-scale integrated LSI, as well as very large-scale integrated VLSI circuit enhance the development of miniature devices such as laptops, um, MP3 player. But I don't know if we still have MP3 player right now. PDAs PDAs are outdated. We use cell phones now. I mean mobile phones. Data collection and recording equipment are also enhanced in many hospitals. Now that you have reviewed all about computers and their history, I want to get a glimpse of your understanding of computers in general. Now, this is what you have to do. Go to go to Wise Owl Training, and the link is found on separate post or in your classwork, and take basic computing skills test and achieve a 100% result. After the exam, you are provided with result summary with your name on it. Download that and submit it in the assignment found in the stream or classwork as an activity for the week. This test is open notes, and you're welcome to search the internet superhighway and get 100% score in this test. You can do this now or later. It depends on you. You can always come back to this discussion or continue whatever works for you, and make sure you have fun. And now we will talk about the history of the use of computers in nursing and nursing informatics. The 21st century was such an exciting era. We are fortunate to experience a time when computer technology has sparked the intellectual metamorphosis, according to McGonigal and Mastrian 2021, and is still moving towards endless and promising developments. According to McGonigal and Mastrian, and I quote, that computer technology has ushered into what has been called the information age. According to them, it is an age when data, information, and knowledge are both accessible and manipulable by more people than ever before. In the 1950s or 1960s, where computers were used in healthcare, we used computers initially for calculating and processing data, and then recent to information technology or informatics. Right now, all aspects of nursing care have used computers. They are used in clinical areas, research, education, leadership, and administration. The goal of this week's discussion is to describe the role of information technology in supporting safe healthcare environments and improving our patients' outcomes. By the end of this week, the learner should be able to define terminologies to computers, describe the mechanism of computers, explain the history of computers in nursing, review and identify the components of the computer, its hardware, software, and peripherals, learn applications or technology that supports e-health, and describe the impact of computers in nursing. So based on your review of computers, can you define computers in your own words? Does your definition describe the basic processes of a computer? So, what is a computer? Computers are devices that collect, store, process, and retrieve data, and are composed of hardware, software, and data as well. Each year, newer and more powerful computers are or processors emerge with significant innovations in hardware and software. Do you remember when the first computer was developed? Was it in 1946, right? Can we attribute the development of computers to a single person? My instructor in nursing informatics in George Brown College says no. So do I, but based on your review, many inventors have contributed to the history and development of computers. When I was teaching nursing informatics in the Philippines, I remember its first use was to record patients' names and vital signs through Microsoft Excel. It's purely recording and not processing it. In other parts of the globe, nursing and the medical field have always been the recipient of newer technologies in other parts of the globe, and that's what they do. Today, computers are integral part of a hospital and the nursing profession. I remember being asked during an interview for a nursing position in a new hospital, and I asked them whether your hospital uses Epic. Epic is a hospital information system, and they said no, so I turned down the offer. I really can't imagine working with dumb charts and papers. In that hospital where I worked, they hired specialists to train nurses or staff regarding the hospital information system. These trained people became the super users, and they are an excellent resource to difficult situation for nurses that they met in the process. I can see that the application of an information system is complicated. That's why those on top of the information chain break down their roles into several roles and then help the end users carry out their nursing functions using computers. Like the human body, a computer is composed of several functioning parts. First, let's talk about hardware. Everything you see physically in a computer is collectively known as hardware. Before, I thought that the casing is the computer, but I was wrong. So, input devices allow users to submit data to the computer. Examples are keyboard, mouse, trackball. Does anyone use trackball? Or joystick, touchscreens, digital pens, stylus, microphones, modem, scanner, biometrics, reader, webcam, and digital camera are the most common input devices. Opposite of input devices are the output devices. Common output devices are monitors, projectors, printers, speakers. The computer's brain is called the CPU, or the central processing unit. The CPU determines the speed of the computer and its capability. Can you give me an example of a CPU and its speed? Can you? The motherboard has been called the central nervous system of the computer because it facilitates communications among all of the computer components, which makes it a critical foundational part. After all other components are connected to it in some way. Now let's talk about storage devices. Storage devices, from the word store, stores your data even when your computer is off. Examples are hard disk drives. These are old storage device. HDD. Some of the computers right now runs in HDD. So if you purchase a computer and it's cheap, you take a look at the storage. It's HDD. HDD is a thing of the past. A more modern and faster one is SSD, or HDD means hard disk drive. So this is the computer. When you turn it on, you will hear the sound like a squeaking sound of a disk spinning, and it's kind of slow. It's slow to restart. The faster one is SSD, so it is called a solid state drive or semiconductor storage device. It has the absence of the spinning disk. That's why it's very, very, very fast. When you also buy external drives, please buy SSD, not the HDD. Virtual memory is a particular type of memory stored on a hard disk to provide temporary data storage that can be swapped in and out of RAM as needed, according to McGonigal and Maestrian 2021. USB flash drives. I remember when in 2006 in CNU, I was the first one to have a USB. What does USB means? Universal Serial Bus, as far as I know. So during that time, I have like four. My brother-in-law sent me four flash drives, and each one has 128 MB capacity. And at that time, it's the biggest. It is like luxury to have a USB device. DVDs are another thing of the past. I don't know if you guys still use DVDs, but I don't. I used to store my information, my data in a disk, like a DVD, 10 gig. I think it stores 10 gigabytes, if I'm not mistaken. So DVDs are a thing, history. DVDs are history. We now use memory cards. Before, memory cards are very expensive. So cloud drives. These are virtual storage devices hosted through the internet for free or subscription. An example is Google Drive, Apple iCloud, and Microsoft's OneDrive. Peripheral hardware is a general term to describe hardware connected to the computer like monitors, keyboards, mice, and other printing devices. We often use the word network. So what is a network? And when people say, computer peeps say, Network, what is it? We'll talk about network when we will talk about the internet. And now I just want to review about storage capacities. I know that you have reviewed about bytes, which is equal to 1 character. Kilobyte is equal to 1000 bytes. Others says 1024 bytes. And a megabyte is equivalent to 1000 kilobytes, and a 1 gigabyte is equivalent to 1000 megabytes. So moving forward, let's talk about 1 terabyte is equals to 1000 gigabyte. 1 petabyte is equivalent to 1000 gigabyte. 1 exabyte is equivalent to 1000 petabyte. 1 zettabyte is equivalent to 1000 exabyte, and 1 yottabyte is equivalent to 1000 zettabyte. So these are the available storage capacities. So for end users like me and you, we're into this gigaterabytes level. Activity number 2 for this lesson is hardware. You need to identify computer parts and have basic computer competency in computer components. The link below, or the link, not the link, the activity that I will post after the first one is from studysection.com. Will test your knowledge of the essentials of a computer. You need to register by clicking the start test marked with a red arrow with a number 1 on your screens. You see that? Right there. Like that. Okay. Then provide the information to register, mark with a red arrow with number 2 on your screen. And then click start test marked with a red arrow with a number 3. And finally, you go to your email and log into your account. Take the test and download the soft copy of a certificate of completion. Do not pay to get the hard copy. Once again, download only the certificate soft copy because it is free. You have to pass this test and upload it to Google Class or in the stream, in the post found in the stream. Okay. So now we move forward to software. So the software comprises the application programs developed to facilitate various user functions such as writing, artwork, organizing meetings, surfing the internet, and communicating with others. According to McGonigal and Mistry in 2021, the various types of softwares are OS software, productivity, creativity software, and communication software. So there's also what we call commercial software. So commercial softwares are from companies like Apple, Microsoft, IBM, and Adobe, and they are the biggest companies of softwares. And their softwares are expensive, right? We cannot afford to buy them. One of the most expensive software is Adobe Photoshop, and Adobe the Adobe Deluxe is a very expensive software. Before, you can buy them and install them in your computer, but right now it's a subscription basis and it's very expensive. Microsoft's software too is expensive, and the Microsoft 360, these are commercial softwares, very expensive, and it's subscription basis as well. So in lieu of the most expensive commercial software, or we call it proprietary softwares. Okay, so any software that comes from a company is called a proprietary or commercial softwares. The next kind of software is the open source software. This is actually an initiative that began in the 1990s. It started by developers who wished to offer their creations to others for the good of community and encourage them to do the same. Users who modify or contribute to the evolution of open source softwares are obliged to share their new code, but essentially the software is free to all. Examples of productivity software are Apache, OpenOffice, Google Docs, and NeoOffice. according to McGonigal and Maestrian. Um, Another example is Ubuntu. Ubuntu is an open source software as well. OS software, I know you're familiar with this one. OS stands for the operating system. It is the most important software of any computer, according to McGonigal and Maestrian 2021. It is the first program to load when a computer starts up and is fundamental for the operation of all other software and computer hardware. Examples of this is Microsoft Windows family, Linux, and Mac OS X is an example of an operating software. An OS must be powerful and flexible to adapt to the installed software available. Before, I think in the 2000s, when you install Adobe software to your computer would load, computer would, you know, becomes very slow because it cannot accommodate a certain or specific software. So the OS should be good. So I think you will hear that there is a 32-bit and there's a 64-bit software. So try searching in Google what is the difference between a 64 and a 32-bit software. So now we'll talk about the mobile computer or mobile computing. So the mobile computer, according to McGonigal and Maestrian 2021, is a technology that allows human-computer interaction wherever you are by transporting the capability of transmitting data, voice, and video with you wherever you are. We have to remember that a mobile OS is different from a computer's OS. The mobile OS is designed specifically for mobile devices for wireless transmission. So your Mac OS is different from your iPhone OS and also the iPad OS. So why it's different? Because the software in your phone is designed for wireless connectivity. Wireless mobile computing refers to mobile computing without wires or cables to connect to a network. So a local area network or LAN is localized over a small area such as one building or a group of building. If a LAN is connected to another, it is called WAN or wide access network. Wi-Fi is a hotspot. It's a wireless access point usually provided in a public location such as cafes and stores, etc. So what is the difference between your Wi-Fi and your mobile computing? So mobile is you're provided with connectivity even if you are moving or walking or like going somewhere. But your Wi-Fi, your home Wi-Fi, your wireless connectivity stays at home, even if they don't necessarily have wires. You can't put the telephone thingy in your car and then, I mean, the landline thing in your car and then go somewhere else, right? So it's static. Another piece of technology that we'll be talking about is the NFC. I know you guys have cell phones. You have like a smartphones and it has NFC on it. NFC means a near field communication. There is also a far field communication referred to regions of the electromagnetic field around an object. NFC is a wireless contactless communication developed that makes a device smarter because it streamlines information and transmission and ultimate connectivity. This is used in phones, credit card, debits, and passport, and also like I think Apple Watches have NFCs. So when I go to a grocery, when I buy groceries, I just pay through my iPhone, and that works with NFC. See, this is the ultimate technology because this technology is, it says there, transmission. It develops from RFIDs. Remember RFIDs they use in cars? Yeah, and passports too have RFID. Now they have NFC. Bandwidth. So let's talk about bandwidth, broadband, and mobile broadband versus wireless broadband. So bandwidth is the measurement in bits, bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, and gigabytes of the data that can be transferred from or to your computer. Sorry. So the higher the number, the higher is the transfer rate. Broadband or wideband or range frequencies is the minimum speed at your connection will transfer information. So broadband will be like the highway itself, and the speed limit of that highway is the bandwidth, and the cars are the units, the bits. Mobile broadband versus wireless broadband. So the difference will depend on the limitations of accessing the internet and the access method. Mobile broadband's ability to access the high-speed internet from different locations can be due to the ability of the technology, 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G, or imposed. An example of that one is like in Canada, my cell phone can because I think we didn't have 5G rollout. I'm not sure. I think some areas have, but my phone access into the LTE or access to the 4G internet. But when I go to the United States, my phone will access the 5G um, internet connection. So that's mobile broadband. And when you go to other areas like the far areas, your phone can access only 2G or 3G. And these generations of internet also has lower bandwidth. So versus the imposed regulations such as DSL, like the one we have at home, right? DSL stands for Digital Subscribers Line. So in which phone companies regulate the speed of your internet. So sometimes, like in the Philippines before, they promise us that this is the speed, but then they deliver lower speed to your internet. So wireless broadband means that the wires and cables are not needed to access the internet. But unlike mobile broadband, wireless broadband does not allow users to move around. That's what I mentioned a while ago. You cannot bring your telephone, like your landline, on a car. So at the same time, they are connected to the internet. So you cannot move around at the same time when you are connected to the internet. Unlike the mobile broadband, you can go anywhere. Example of your mobile broadband is your cell phone and what do you call that? Like the internet thingy. I forget the name of that. Like I have that in the Philippines before, where I insert a card, a SIM card, and I load like $50 50 pesos to connect to the internet. Next is cloud computing. Cloud computing has a web browser based login, accessible data, software, and hardware that can be accessed and used. Using the cloud, systems can be linked together and costs are reduced, according to McGonigal and Mystery in 2021. As they quote from Griffin 2020, cloud computing refers to storing and accessing data and programs over the internet instead of on a computer's hard drive. So, for example, have you noticed the new Microsoft Word, the online version, which is free? So that is cloud computing. So you don't actually install the thing in your um, laptop, but or computer, but it is available online. You need a computer. You need an internet to do it. This is when they say cloud, this is just a metaphor of the internet. So examples of cloud services are on-demand access via the internet, like your Netflix, and data storage, like your iCloud, um, your online storage, development tools, networking capabilities, and others. So we're looking into the future of um, computers. So quantum computing, have you heard about this? I heard about this in a movie. So quantum computing, I don't know if this one is realized, but I'm sure that they're looking into it. I've seen a news about this, but this is very interesting. According to my source, McGonigal and Maestri in 2021, these cloud computing computers are three-dimensional, uses a three-dimensional arrays of atoms in quantum states. I don't know what that is. So computers nowadays work by the binary system. the on and off, the one and zero. Remember that? So a quantum computer is based on the behavior of subatomic particles or qubits. Interesting. I realized we would be able to execute millions of instructions per second in a quantum computing. So that's very interesting. And if we have this computer, it would be very fast. Sometimes, sometimes I get irritated in the unit when I work, when I scan things, when I open Epic, when I read and open doctor's notes. I don't like it because the computer is buffering and there are delays. But maybe when we use this quantum computing, it would make our activity very fast. And sometimes nurses are irritated because of technologies that doesn't work and slow. Next one is the voice activated communicators. These are already in the markets, like um, like Alexa, like um, Siri, and all others. In the healthcare, we have this Vocera B300N communication badge. So these are like badge. My classmate used this. She told me they put it in their uniform. It's a wearable thing, and nurses can communicate with each other and record data by voice command. So um, during the pandemic, I used my smartwatch to record vital signs because we have to get in an isolation room and you cannot touch anything, right? So in an isolation room, everything inside of it is dirty and you cannot bring them outside. So what I do, you know, I just what do you call this? Tell my watch to um, record or to send a message, and I'll I'll tell my iWatch about the vital signs of the patient. It will send it to my phone. So this one is in the market right now, and I like this one. I like voice activation communicators. Next one is game and simulation technology. So it offers a very realistic, innovative way to reach content in general, including the healthcare information concepts and skills. In Canada, this is introduced to students um, before they are placed in their consolidation or clinicals. So they are introduced to a simulated clinical area before being exposed to the real one. We will use this one in our activities soon, and actually I'm planning to do more, but let's see about our time. If we have extra time, we're gonna do it, but I think we're jam packed. Next one is virtual reality. It is another technological breakthrough. It is a three-dimensional computer-generated world in which a person can move about and interact as if they were actually in a physical location. Oculus, for example, is a VR. Google is a VR that can bring you into this computer-generated world and games. Have you been to Meta? So try it, and it's very good, very nice. I really thought that it looks like cheap kind of like simulated reality, virtual cheap virtual reality, but it wasn't, and you get the feel that you are really there. There, one time, um, I was wearing the VR and I was stunned by a cat, a big cat. My my friends' children told me, Tito Doms, there's a big cat in there. Just be careful. And I never realized the cat was at my back. So when I turned around, I see the cat. I startled because I was scared because the cat was very huge and the eyes were very large. But it was just a virtual reality. So imagine if we use this in class. Imagine if we use virtual reality to discuss this topic. Right now we are like one dimensional. You can only see the front of me, but this one is multidimensional. Next is mobile devices. More and more nurses are using this both at the point of care and in planning, documenting, interacting, and with interprofessional team and researching. I use the rover. Remember the rover? The iPhone XR, equivalent to the patient's chart, to scan medications right at the bedside. Before you record medication, and you give the medication and record it to the MAR in the nurse's station. But right now we record it at the bedside before the patient take the medication. Um, I also use rover for vital signs right at the bedside. Remember, so before, when you take vital signs, you have to run to the nurse station and record the vital signs. Right now, just record it in like in the bedside after you took the vital signs. Other hospitals makes use of vitals machines that are very intelligent, that can send the vitals into the computer and synchronize it. And we also use the rover to communicate with the nurse and other members of the interprofessional team. It is truly a marvel, and I can't imagine working without rover or mobile devices. This is me, and I'm trying to test what I can do in the virtual world. Do you think we can do this lecture in the virtual world? If everybody has Oculus, I think we can do it. And it's exciting because we can interact with each other. So now we will discuss about how nurses uses computers. They use computers first for documenting nursing care notes or assessments. Historically, nurses have gathered and collected data in a paper record, according to McGonigal and Masrian, and it was this type of documentation that hindered the ability to share knowledge and experiences and to create new knowledge as well. For example, blood pressure, temperature, and whatnot. In the documentation, we get rid of the copy and paste method. Instead, we write charting by exception. So you will hear that when you go to the hospital later on. They will tell you that our charting is now charting by exception. Before, they write memorized script. Like we would say, if we receive a patient and the patient is normal, we receive them after report. We'll say receive patient on bed, alert oriented, no signs of respiratory distress, vitals are stable, patient is eating breakfast. We'll continue to monitor, and every day you have to write that. But by charting by exception, you only report what is new and what is important. So you only have to write what is important, what you have assessed. Are there changes to the previous assessment? That's the only thing that you do in computer documentation. Others use ADPI. Remember ADPI, assessment, diagnosis, planning, intervention, and evaluation. But the hospital where I work, we use SOAP charting. So do you know what SOAP charting means? Like subjective, objective, assessment, and planning. So that's how we write our charting, our documentation. Nurses uses computers for communication, to communicate physician orders. In the place I work, we either page them. Yes, you heard it right. We still use pagers or send them a secure chat, which I prefer because you can recall previously communicated information. You can also allow the interdisciplinary team to join the group message. It's similar to our group chat. Nurses uses the computer to receive information about admissions. The Epic software we used in the place where I work makes admissions very simple. Admissions are tricky. So when you admit a patient, because there's a lot to be done, the use of computers and software made it into task-oriented activity, meaning the computer will give you a to-do list, and you'll have to tick the things you've done. The computer prioritizes it for you, so it's even better. Before, when you admit a patient, you have to like review the entire chart and do a lot of stuff, paperwork. But now the computer is very intelligent, that it provides you with step to step or task oriented task-oriented methods to admit a patient. Next is we use the computers for discharge and transfers. Discharge and transfers is just one click. Before it was it was a very heavy job because you have to like review all the papers of a patient. But now, unlike before, you have to call the finance department, doctors, and the people's involved. Now it's just one click, and the interdisciplinary team will know about the patient's discharge or transfer. Transferring a patient or discharging a patient is just 5 minutes away using computer systems. Next is that we use computers to monitor trends of clients. You can see trends and results and compare them. We use computers for drug pharmacy info, review before giving and give. The computers will give you drug information and also compatibility information. For example, if you are about to provide spironolactone and the patient is taking potassium, the system alerts you that the administration is fatal, and then you decide whether to give it or not. So, unlike before, I remember when I was working, when I was a clinical instructor, I've seen people administering this medication together, and no one says something, and the paper system is the MAR, the medication administration's record sheet, is not intelligent because it doesn't alert you that these medications are compatible when taken together. Computer system does. And also nurses uses the computers for laboratory diagnostic results. So the computer will prompt you if there are critical results and you need to act on it immediately. Next is for appointments like hemodialysis appointments. Hemodialysis appointments are like a lot. These are like because it's lifetime, so you have a lot of like appointments, and computer makes it simple for you. Fracture clinics, follow-ups, and even out of hospital consults. Notifications via secure chat. Oh, this is the best thing about computerization. It notifies you and it sends you a secure chat. Next is photo. Enter a photo. So you have to enter a photo of wounds, and then the IDT will be able to see it. The interdisciplinary team will be able to see it and compare its progress, rather than stripping the dressing each time a member of the interdisciplinary team has to look at it, right? And it impedes healing. So this one, you take pictures of the wounds and compare it during the admission, during day 0 and until now. So there are more the features of this is limitless, and nursing informatics is not actually doesn't end in documentation. Before, when I was like 10 years ago, when I was still teaching nursing, our goal at that time was to do electronic health records. But now we go beyond the electronic health records. We move forward for the future. We move forward for the virtual reality and all those stuff. According to McGonigal and Maestri in 2021, nurses needs to participate in creating possibilities in nursing informatics. So it is limitless, and I encourage you who are listening to this lecture to join the nursing informatics team wherever you go, and discover new things, new softwares, new systems, and that can be used by nurses. Someone told me that nursing informatics is a problem-solving system. It's not really about computers. It's not really how to what do you call this? Repair a computer or build a computer. It is this problem-solving task. Application of computers to health professions. So it can be used on automatic searching of parallel records. For example, when patients go to the hospital, We want to know if the patient is taking prescription meds. So the pharmacist will go to clinic or pharmacy to find medications taken by the patient's home over the internet. Um, Automatic searching for nationwide databases is used when looking at previous doctor's notes and previous hospitalizations. So the patient can't lie to us because we can access the records. Automated review of similar patients to determine expected lengths of stay, cost, and rates of complications. So this is very important when you are doing budgeting for the hospital for the entire year, right? Systems allows you to easily pull out information from a vast number of patients. Improve communication between multiple providers to reduce the it slipped through the cracks or forget about it syndromes that plague the smooth running of operating rooms. Patient and care management. Care providers document care at the bedside and central terminals. In the hospital where I work, we use the computer with wheels or cow and the rover. Patient records, so a compilation of patient or test data. Patient monitoring, record patient data online. We've been talking about is to like observe a trend. Exchange of medical data from the compilation and maintenance of databases. Interactive medical education from databases and tutorial software. And lastly, physician decision making from the use of patient records and other databases. And you know what? When you assess a patient and you take vital signs, the computer generates point system to all the information that you entered and gives the patient a score. The higher the score, the higher the complexity of the problem of the patient. So, and sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, physician based your data and process it into an information before they make decisions. And if you enter a wrong data to the computer, that would mess up the decision of the physician. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of manual healthcare? So advantage of manual healthcare is that it is easy to implement. You just get a piece of paper and then write the thing, and it's low cost because you need only paper and clipboard. No extra training required. As long as you know how to write, you're good, and requires minimum effort. You don't have to hire analysts, specialists, and those IT guys to study the process in your hospital. And it's quick processing, meaning to say when you write, it prints and can be stored anywhere. So one of the hospitals I know back then stores patient charts in the hallway and is poorly managed. Sometimes boxes can become household of mice. So before I go to the disadvantage of manual healthcare, I remember when I was a student, we used manual healthcare. So the hospital where I have my clinicals uses manual healthcare and loved manual healthcare that much. And then I think in 20, when is that? In the year 2003, the hospital wanted to become a the hospital wanted to become like computerized. So I remember they purchased a computer, and the computer was just sitting as a decorative of every unit. It was just sitting right there, and we're like, so what's the purpose of these computers? So we tried turning them on, and then we realized that those computers doesn't have softwares. They're just hardwares, and they don't connect with each other. And we were told that they don't work. They don't actually work, and it's kind of funny because you need to educate nurses. You need to educate the people managing the computerization of your hospital, because if these people are not educated, they will not know that the hardware needs a software, and in order to work, and it needs a network, and it needs a lot of stuff. So that's why nursing informatics is introduced to nursing. So leaders will know basics in computer science or nursing information systems. Disadvantages of manual healthcare is that you have problems with maintenance. I just mentioned it, and volume of data becomes a problem. Remember the hallway storage, where the box are also the household of mice. And yeah, I saw that when I was a student. Patients' charts are placed in a box and they were placed in the hallway. And sometimes we kick on it, sometimes we sit on it, and sometimes I saw patients' charts used as a wrap. And sometimes like when we don't do anything, I'll just gonna like stick my hands into inside the box and grab a piece of paper and read through the hospital, I mean the history of the present illness. And it was interesting because these are like records from the 1990s. I wonder if that hospital carries my father's hospital records as well. um, Next is volumes becomes a problem. Storage, I just mentioned that, and needs a lot of paper. So look at the forest right now. Problem with interpretation and transcription. This is the thing that I really hate in manual care. To transcribe doctor's order and to read my colleagues' progress notes, and I hate it. I wouldn't work in a facility that doesn't encode and print any communications or care plan. Computer information system. And by the way, before I forget, when I was a student, we were trained on manual healthcare. So we're not allowed to print templates for our drug study. We have to like write them manually. When I studied in Canada, um, they allow encoding. They allow all and every possible means, and that is what I like. I was telling myself like, oh, I thought we were like this when we were in college. Next is computer information system. Advantage of computer information system is that data maintenance is that it is fast and efficient. Sometimes due to an automation, you don't have to maintain it, and it's low cost. I'm not sure about the low cost. Do you? Do you think it's low cost? I think it's not. Volume of data is not an issue. It's limitless. Did you did you did you remember the storage capacity that we talk about? With the emergence of cloud computing, it's limitless. No papers required. I don't agree with that. Paper is still required minimally because we have to print a list of our patients with a bit of blurb in it when we give a report to other nurses. There's just there's just one thing about manual I mean printing. It's just like very fast. It's just easy. Just one glance you can see the information. And like computer, you have to open it. Um, yeah, why do we print? Because it is very painful to wait for the computer to open file, and we don't have a lot of computers to cater all the nurses during report. Disadvantages. So disadvantages is implementation requires severe justification. So you have to justify to administrations why and what's the reason you need to buy very expensive gadgets. Well, we have an existing one that is cheap. High starting cost. Hardware, software, and training are costly. When our hospital started to roll out Epic, the administration hired several people to help train staff and rented an entire Marriott hotel for training. The computers are not low-powered ones. The patient chart is being replaced by rovers. These are iPhone 10R, and those were very expensive. Requires additional effort to implement. I work everywhere in the entire hospital because of the nature of my um, job, be it ER, medical, surgical, peds, or special assignments, and I have to be trained 3 times compared to the nurses who work in a unit. They only have to be trained 1 time. Additional workforce is necessary, yes. Several knowledgeable and smart manpower can be hired. I remember when we started the hospital hired nurses as champions to train the staff on how the software works. I remember the implementation of Epic in our hospital. All phones are ringing, specialist care on the floor, and all possible support is present to support the peopleware that's using the software. And at the initial stage of the implementation, everybody hates it, but then later on, after 6 months, everybody loves it and can't work without them. And before we end our discussion for today, as your individual discussion, I will yeah, it's flashed on your screen right now. The story of Dan. Okay, so Dan is a first year student in graduate studies in nursing. In the past, he has learned to use his family's personal computer to surf the World Wide Web, exchange emails with friends, and play computer games. However, Dan realizes that a computer is a vital tool for his academic success, and he has saved up enough money to purchase a laptop computer. He has decided on an Intel processor with 1 terabyte of storage and 8 gigabytes of RAM. Dan also wishes to choose appropriate software for his system. He is on a limited budget but wants to make the most of his investment. Okay, so your response, your individual discussion will be based on these 3 questions. Dan still wants to learn more about computers. What will be your recommendation? Okay. Which of the 4 categories of software, for example, OS, productivity, creativity, or communication software, discussed in this chapter will benefit the most in his studies? Okay. What would you recommend? And how could and what kind of software do you recommend to Dan? Yeah. How could Dan afford to install software from all 4 groups on his new laptop? So read Dan's story again and answer these 3 questions as a class comment to this stream. Write in your own word and do not copy from your classmates' answer, and you know why. This will serve as your individual discussion for week 2. As a reminder, please submit your plagiarism contract which is due at the end of this week in Google Class. Find in the stream for the assignment submission for the plagiarism contract. And if you have submitted it, don't worry about it. We just started our lectures and prelims are coming right up. Please make sure that you check your Classmarkers account and log in. Please do the practice test to know what the exam feels like, and that ends our discussion for week 2. Don't hesitate to post them in our WhatsApp. If you have questions, don't hesitate to post them in our WhatsApp group. And thank you so much for listening. And these are my references.